Okay, here's the really simple thing. We don't need to have unemployment. We don't need to be hysterical about our debt. This whole kabuki theater that's going on around sequestration and all this other stuff is total nonsense. And all of that is true in large part because Nixon took us off the gold standard in 71. Now let's go back to why that's true. Why it's possible that our government could actually make our society work. In fact, that not only are public debts not a bad thing, but they're actually a good thing because they represent surpluses in the private sector. This country, 8 times in its history since George Washington became president, 8 times we've shown a surplus instead of a debt. And each time it was followed by a depression or a severe recession. Why? Double entry bookkeeping. The bigger the private sector surplus, the larger the public sector debt. Government debt equals surplus in the private sector, plus or minus our trade balance, right, which is a whole. But let me work into this a little more slowly. Remember, I was talking about gamu, this feeling of obligation, this how society is based on obligation, the Japanese sense of gamu, or of giri, excuse me. Gamu is a very specific type of giri. We used to have a bird. Our parrot was named Gamu. But the Sword of Giri was the book that I wrote. So if money equals giri, if money equals obligation, if money was created by society so that society can function, then what does society give us? If we have an obligation, if we have giri to society, if we have an obligation to society, what is the obligation that society has to us? According to Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence, it was life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How can you have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness if you don't have a damn job? See, Franklin Roosevelt really hooked into this back in the early 40s when he proposed his second Bill of Rights. He said that there should be a right to a job. In fact, in 33, when he started the WPA and the CCC and the New Deal, he made what is one of the 3 primary tenets of modern monetary theory a reality. And that is that if the private sector cannot fund full employment, if the private sector fails to provide everybody with a job, then it's the obligation of government to do so, even if it has to go into debt to do it. In fact, particularly when it goes into debt to do it, because as I mentioned before, as government debt goes up, private surpluses go up. So, but again, that sounds confusing. So let me just make it really simple. The job of government should be to provide full employment. And we could do it now. All we'd have to do is say, we're going to create we have $2.5 trillion worth of infrastructure that needs to be repaired. For another $1 trillion, we could, or maybe 2 or 3, we could build a national high-speed rail system. For a fraction of $1 trillion, we could have a broadband system in this country that would be almost as good as that in South Korea or Japan. So why not just have the government write a check and do it? Oh, but that means we'll go into debt. Yes. We've always been in debt. We start in the Revolutionary War. We've always been in debt. Government debt is private savings. It's private surplus. Oh, but what if the Chinese won't buy our debt? Then they don't have to. What if they want their money back? Give it to them. But won't we run out of money? No, we issue the money. The amount of money that the United States has does not depend on how much gold is in Fort Knox. We're not on the gold standard. Are you following this? But wait a minute, if government just creates money out of thin air, then the currency will become worthless, won't it? Won't you have inflation? Only if you go insane. Well, isn't that what happened in Zimbabwe or in the Weimar Republic? No. Isn't that what happened during the Carter years of the inflation? No. Inflation is very rarely about there being too much currency. That has to do with, maybe the value of the currency. I mean, I was in Israel when they changed the shekel, and I have someplace around the house. Actually, they're probably in storage someplace now that we're living in this little boat. I used to have the old Israeli shekels, and you could turn them in for the new shekels. In fact, you had to. And a 100 shekel note became a 10 shekel note. They just knocked a zero off everything. I think it was 1 0. Might have been 2 zeros. When I used to carry a wallet, I no longer do, but in my wallet, which I know is at home, I've got an old Russian 100 ruble note. And it's just a little thing because it was worth about 15 cents. And it was issued before they issued the new ruble notes. Because I was in Russia when that transition happened. I was in Russia, in fact, I was there the week of the election when Boris Yeltsin, the very first election in 1,000 years in Russian history. I've told you that story on the air before. But anyhow, the whole point is those changes in currency had nothing to do with the government spending too much or there being too much debt. Say, well, what about Spain and Greece? I mean, their debts are exploding. Well, yes, they should be. There's a recession going on. When there's a recession, tax collections go down because people don't have jobs anymore. They're not paying taxes. And the automatic stabilizers kick in. That is, the government starts paying unemployment benefits and covering the costs of things that people used to be able to pay for themselves, like food and medical care. And so government spending goes up, tax collection goes down. You have a deficit, like we have right now in the United States. Now, why is it that Greece and Spain are having to pay 20, 25, 30%, or close to it, to borrow money to finance their debt, and we're able to sell our debt for nothing, for 1%? The reason why is because we will never run out of dollars. We issue them. Spain and Greece gave up their ability to issue their own currency when they joined the euro. It's like Mississippi. Mississippi is chronically in deficit. Without transfers of wealth from all the rest of us to Mississippi every year for the last probably 50 years, 100 years, God only knows how long. Certainly since the New Deal. And it's not just Mississippi. Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, West Virginia. I mean, they're basically the red states. Without us giving them money, they'd be in deep doo-doo. They'd be like Greece or Spain. But we do it because we're all one country. Well, when they put together the European Union, they didn't realize that. They didn't think of that. This is why the EU is going down in flames. This is why Greece and Spain, because Greece and Spain have the same problem that would happen if West Virginia or Mississippi tried to go out and borrow money with their, and our federal government said, you cannot borrow beyond a certain amount, and we're not going to give you any. So we just give them the money. We don't loan it to them. We feed their people with food stamps. We heal their people with Medicare. We don't ask them to pay us back. You getting this? This is how the United States is different from the European Union, and why the European Union is doomed to fail and the euro is doomed to collapse. And why in the United States, if we were to say, we have basically an infinite supply of dollars. Now, it's not genuinely infinite. It's constrained by a number of things. It's constrained by inflation. It's constrained by demand. There are a number of variables that limit our ability to produce these dollars. But we could literally just say, we're going to put everybody to work. We're going to build that infrastructure. And if you want to, we could just create the money. You say, well, you can't do that. You can't just create. Actually, we created $29 trillion in the first couple of years, the last couple of years of the Bush administration, the first couple of years of the Obama administration. The Fed created almost $30 trillion. That's half the world GDP just to give to banksters. We created it out of thin air. Did it create inflation? No. So what creates inflation? Why did we have inflation during the Carter and Reagan presidencies? Because of the oil price shock. As the price of oil went up, we're so dependent on oil. I mean, literally our food is oil. Our products, everything is oil. So prices went up. So what happened in Zimbabwe? Same deal. In Zimbabwe, when Mugabe took down the white farmers, basically, and turned the land over to anybody who wanted it, as long as they weren't white farmers, the people who took over the land didn't know how to farm. And so there was a food shortage. You got a shortage of an essential commodity. What do you have? More demand, inflation.